Welcome back to the Reynolds Direction. My name is Scott Reynolds, and I'm very excited to introduce you to DJ, whose family owns the Busy Bee Lawn and Garden Center.
You got it. Yes.
So thank you so much for making it out here and seeing us. With the real estate business, a lot of our clients a lot of time has a lot of questions about landscaping, and you guys have always been a great resource to refer out. So I'm really, really glad that you were able to make it in here.
Yeah, thanks for having us and showcasing our business on your podcast. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Let's just start off at the top. Like, maybe tell us a little bit about your guys' history, when you started, where did you, move from or anything like that?
Gotcha. Yeah, I can go back to the beginning. So the original owner of Busy Bee Lawn and Garden Center was Don. He opened up the business in 1978 after leaving from the Kmart Garden Center, actually.
Okay.
Wanted to do his own thing. He started as a grower operation, but the freeze actually killed all of his plants that he had been growing prior to that. So what he ended up doing is changing his whole direction and opened up Busy Bee as a retail establishment instead of a wholesale grower. And he did that for many years. And then my dad, about a year, 2 years after high school, ended up starting to work at Busy Bee for Don. Mm-hmm. Worked there for 15 years until 2002, and then bought the business from Don, the original owner.
Wow. So you guys, I keep forgetting this is 2026, so that's 24 years.
24 years, yes. Actually, we're going to be having our 24th annual, we call it Customer Appreciation Day, anniversary sale sort of thing. It'll be June 13th through the 15th. So big sales, we'll have giveaways, prizes, stuff like that. Something that we like to do every year around this time.
Well, your company has been just known in the community for a long, long time. I mean, you can't not know your guys' name. So tell us a little bit, for those who don't, maybe the few that don't know about you guys or new to the area. What are your products and services that you guys sell?
So by and large, we don't really do much in the way of service. We are strictly retail.
Okay.
We have just about any plants that you could want, pottery, soils, mulches, anything to get your yard in order. Mm-hmm. As far as the landscaping aspect, we really don't have the licensing, insurance, or desire to do that. Plus, we work with a lot of landscapers in the area, and we don't want to step on their toes and take business away from them. We would rather promote other businesses in the area instead of taking that from them.
So you guys kind of draw the line at, for lack of better terms for me, is installation.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, we'll run deliveries for people that need help getting plants. They don't have a truck, they don't have a trailer or any way of getting things to their house. But as far as installations, nothing at all.
What about, this is just a random question, what about somebody that has their survey, do you guys get involved in any kind of design work?
We can. If people bring in pictures, plans, ideas, we can absolutely walk around and help them design in store.
Okay.
A lot of times it's easier to have a landscape professional come out to your house to have that done. But typically, anything that they do at your house, we can kind of do in store as long as we have the necessary information to be able to, hook them up with what they need.
Because now that you're saying it that way, that's what Janice and I did years ago. We it was my first introduction to going, doing a big, landscaping job at our home, and we had a landscaper come out that was more of an artist. I call it, in my terms, an artist. And they did, I gave him my survey, and he took a bunch of pictures and was able to do a pretty comprehensive design, which made it where it was easy for us to make decisions. And then he just went and got all the stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that was really cool. So how did the, Vero Beach, we don't experience the freeze very often. How did the freeze, how did that affect you guys? Maybe now I'm saying it out loud. I mean, obviously you guys had plants that are out there in the store, so that probably affected
Correct. So
that.
that's the funny thing, is anything that we had outside, we brought inside.
Okay.
So all of our stock that you see outside in the sections, on the tree lines, all around the property, it was either in our store, in one of our 2 shade houses, in our warehouse, or in the golf cart shed. It was all inside with heaters on them. And the cold that we experienced this year was much worse than anything that I personally had seen. It'd been about 16 years since last we got down to those degrees. I think we hit for a low around 26, 28 degrees in some areas in Vero. But the problem this time around was that we were so cold for so long.
Right.
The last time it hit it an hour, 2 hours below freezing, it comes right back up again. It's not as big of a deal. I personally was in my yard throwing logs on a fire, lighting smudge pots, doing what I could to try to keep my plants alive. After working all day at the nursery, bringing the plants in, protecting them from the freeze, I was up until 3, 4, 5 a.m. every night trying to keep my plants outside that were way too large to cover, warm enough through the cold. And from 11 p.m. to 10 a.m. the following day, I mean, it was nearly 10 hours of just below freezing temperatures. And that's something that, at least in my lifetime, we haven't seen.
Wait, you slid in some things that as a layman, I'm a real layman. I really appreciate landscaping. I love pulling up to my home or anyone's home and really appreciating their landscaping. But I don't know anything about the different plants and all that. But you said something like
smudge pots. It's an old term that they would use in the groves a long time ago. They're not used as much anymore because usually it was kerosene or oil or diesel fuel they'd burn in them. It's not exactly what I was using. I took a 55-gallon oil drum, put a grate in the bottom of it, and just burnt logs in it as a burn barrel. But
it was just basically a heat source for your plants?
Exactly. Which normally that's not something we recommend. That was something that I was trying to do because I have 40-foot tall coconut palms that I was trying to keep alive, which one of them at this point looks like it's okay. The other two, I'm still on the fence. I don't know whether or not they're going to make it or not.
Well, I'm glad you said that because I was with, I'll just leave it at, I was with somebody and just as much as like 2 days ago, and they were telling me what they did, and I at first thought like that was a little bit out there. They took Christmas lights and they put it like in the beds and like around, not the LED Christmas lights, the ones that emit some heat.
Yep.
And I'm like, what? Like
that's actually what we recommend.
I was gonna leave that out of this, but then when you started talking about
that is absolutely what we recommend. So at this point,
so glad to hear that.
We're not going to get any more cold.
Uh-huh.
We're past that.
Okay.
At least till the next year, we'll see what happens. But going forward, knowing what you need to do to protect your plants is a great thing to have in your repertoire. So yes, the Christmas lights is a great option to help a little bit of extra heat. The LEDs, they don't do anything. It's best to get the old C7 or C9 bulbs, the big Christmas lights, because those will emit more heat. And in addition to doing the Christmas lights, it's a good practice to cover your plants.
Right.
Which just taking a sheet or something and throwing it over the top of the plant is going to do more harm than good. You have to seal it all the way to the ground. Weigh it down, make sure that it is sealed all the way to the ground, all the way around. You could use bed sheets, you could use comforter, stuff like that. I mean, there is something called frost blanket, which is better to use because it is made for plants. You don't have to worry about uncovering in the day and recovering at night because it'll still let the UV light through, which most of your bedding sheets will not. And plastic is something we typically do not recommend because it will burn the plants through the plastic. Okay. But yes, use Christmas lights. It's a valid option.
If I would have been driving down the street and someone in January, February, or March were putting up their Christmas lights, I would have thought, it would take me a minute to realize, man, that was witty. But I would have thought, well, maybe they're like early or late.
Yep.
So anyway, I'm glad you confirmed that. So anything else? So then you guys obviously survived it really well, and then so I imagine you probably had an influx of people replacing some of their landscaping.
Yes, absolutely. Actually, our numbers for March and for April both broke records. They were the busiest months we have had in the history of the business. Yeah. Which is huge for us. And I know a lot of it has to do with people losing a bunch of their landscaping, which is a shame. But going forward, there's a lot of things that you can do to the landscaping that you still have. A lot of people were coming out wanting to replace things right away, which we don't recommend you do because I'd say the majority of things that got burnt would typically recover. And once you get into that March, April, especially after the cold weather, that's the time to start cutting things back, fertilizing, and really getting
Okay.
after it with trying to save what you've already have
Right.
in your yard. Which the biggest thing that you can do after the cold, cut plants back. It's going to promote new growth and get rid of any dead foliage. Fertilize, and also use a product that we sell called Root Stimulator. It's made by Fertilome. It's been on the market forever. It's a hormone that is used for growing feeder roots. You use it on brand new plants. Within the first month, while getting a new plant established, it'll increase root growth by 40%.
Oh, wow.
And anytime you get a freeze, something gets damaged, God forbid we have a hurricane and something gets blown over, stake it back up, Root
Now
Stimulator.
you got good roots.
Exactly.
So,
Use
okay.
Root Stimulator anytime a plant is stressed. It's going to help the plant recover quicker and be able to intake nutrients faster.
All right, so I got a question that Sylvester trees.
Yes.
They're like my favorite, but everyone's like almost like don't want to sell you one because they're so disease.
There's a lot of different diseases going around on different palms. Sylvesters and Canary Island dates are two of your worst.
Okay.
Lethal yellowing and lethal bronzing, as well as different insect and borer issues, can get on those. And as nice as they are, we don't carry them. We don't
Yeah.
sell them. I would rather see people plant things that we know aren't going to have issues going forward.
Right. That's fine. So that was just a random thing that I just I've always had a thing for. I like the Sylvester, but
They are beautiful,
everyone's like,
but-
please don't buy one because I don't want you upset with me.
That's the same thing with the Viburnum awabuki. It was one of the most popular plants 20 years ago. It's that large leaf hedge with that shiny
Yeah.
foliage. It now, no, not everybody's going to get it, but there is an airborne disease that will cause massive leaf drop, and as such, we don't carry it anymore. There are other options, and that's the same thing with the Sylvesters. There's other options.
Yeah.
They're not going to be exactly the same, but you'll still be able to get a really nice large palm. I would say, for example, probably a Bismarck palm would be a good option instead. Does not get that lethal bronzing or lethal yellowing disease, but still will grow a very large, beautiful palm. Nice statement palm.
How does how does landscaping affect property values? I mean, I know that's more of a real estate question, but but it's
I don't necessarily know the numbers on it,
Yeah.
but I mean, driving around town, you see a house with nice landscaping next to a house without landscaping.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Of course, right now, you can't really judge too harshly because we did have the cold weather.
Yeah.
So be nice to your neighbors. If they've cut things back and they're waiting for them to flush
Yeah.
out again, give it time.
Good point.
It will flush out. And the nice thing about that, too, is plants will flush out quicker after they've been established. Because a lot of people will plant a nice, for example, firebush. It's a common plant. A lot of people have them. When you plant it, don't expect a lot of growth in the first year. It's putting out a lot of roots underground. It's not doing much above ground. But once it's in and established, it grows a lot faster. So your plant that took 4 years to get from 2 feet tall to 8 feet tall, you're afraid to cut down again. I personally cut my firebush back in my yard from 8 feet tall to 8 inches tall every year. And within 3 months, they're back up to 6 feet tall. They will come back very quickly, which should be the same case with plants that were damaged by the freeze,
Okay.
especially if you're using a good fertilizer, the root stimulator, and all that as well.
yeah. I guess you can scratch it a little bit and see. If there's-
Exactly. That's the best way to do it, is to find out what's alive, what's dead on the plant. Take a knife, go up to the branch and scrape a little bit back. If it's white or green inside, it's alive. If it's brown, it's dead. Move your way 6 or 8 inches further, closer to the center
Okay.
of the plant. Do it again. Once you find where the live growth is, cut the dead off there, and you'll get new growth to sprout out from where you cut.
Now you kind of touched on it. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but you guys also sell the pottery or the pot,
Yes.
the big pots, but small and big too. I think those like really change like a pool area, an entryway, or and it's easy to like maintain plants.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's always been nice. And it's nice that you guys sell those as well. The what about the any tips or recommendations that you have on someone that's starting? Maybe they have existing landscaping and any kind of like when you're starting out with landscaping, it's probably just need to prep ahead of time.
That is the best thing to do. If you're looking, personally, when I go to do any project, it's best to start with a clean slate. If you know you're going to be removing the material, remove it, and then you can kind of get a better idea of what you're going to formulate going forward. Which again, if you have any issues doing that yourself, we can help, or I actually have a couple of businesses in town that we recommend. One of my personal friends, Kimberly with Native Life Landscaping, is fantastic. I know she's booked out many months in advance right now. A, because she's a great business, and B, we just had a freeze. So, and then the other one that we recommend, actually a recommendation we got from Kimberly, was Tony with Tony's Lawn and Gardening Service, which he actually just did work for my parents in their yard, getting it all cleaned up post-freeze. Fantastic job. Everyone that has come in and not gone with Kim because she's way too busy right now has gone with Tony, and I have heard so much good feedback coming from his business. So I would like to plug both of them and say, if you have issues doing your landscaping yourself, reach out to them. Use the resources. They're fantastic.
And we'll take their information and we'll put it in the show notes below so that you have both resources if you guys are deciding to change out or add landscaping. So I always like asking, like, give me, like, do you have like a funny story or like just something like out of the blue?
When I read over the outline for the podcast, I was really racking my brain as if there was any funny stories, and I don't know if I could come up with anything that's necessarily funny. I mean, so many people come in that are looking for different things that, a lot of people don't know what they're looking for. So what I can say is, if you come in and you're looking for a plant, here are the top questions we're going to ask you when you say, hey, I want a plant. Is it in the sun or in the shade? Is it a wet area or a dry area? Do you want flowers? That's the top three questions every time we ask. Exactly. Because the first one, sun or shade, is the biggest thing. That will either say you can plant the plants that are outside or the plants that are in our greenhouses. That immediately cuts in half your options. And then, if it's a wet area, that cuts it further. If you want flowering, that cuts it further. But those are like the top three questions that I will ask when someone comes in and says, hey, I want a plant, but I don't know what I want.
That'd be like going to a realtor saying, I'd like a house.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's funny. So we were talking about this and making fun of ourselves, that how I don't want to say I'm a plant murderer or anything like that, but like specifically with sod, it's like my sod, if I have to buy new sod, I have a 30% success rate because it's either underwatered, overwatered, or something eats it. So the amount of offense out there on these plants is like...
Yes. Yeah, sod can be a tricky one.
Yeah.
The best thing to do with sod if you're putting down a new yard is, of course, have irrigation. Mm-hmm. Typically, what we recommend for our customers for irrigation, you would not want, in the wintertime, twice a week. In the summer, 3 times a week. If you can get your yard to run at that, that's perfect. Any more, you're going to be causing fungus issues or other problems with the yard. Of course, now it's 84 degrees today. We're getting close to the cusp, but we do sell a product called Weed and Feed, which is a fertilizer and a weed killer that you can use in the cooler months on the St. Augustine or Floritam type lawns, which is what most people have in this area anyways. But that's something that you can spread out as long as it is consistently below 90 degrees. When it gets above that, it could actually hurt the lawn.
Okay.
But this time of the year, for another couple weeks or so, it's still safe to use, and that would kind of get you partway into the summer by taking care of the weed issue.
And then, obviously, I've always been told, do the watering on the new stuff, or probably most of the stuff, try to hit the mornings.
Exactly. In the morning from 4 a.m. to 9 a.m. That's
Right.
kind of your window. If you do it earlier than 4 a.m., it's possible that the yard
do.
will stay too wet
Yeah.
overnight and not dry out quick enough. If you do it after that, between the wind and the heat, a lot of what you're spreading out on there, you would have to end up watering a lot longer
Oh, the evaporation.
because it'll evaporate quicker.
I didn't think
Exactly.
of that. I thought it was like damaging it, like almost attracting, like anyway. So I was wrong. So it's the amount of water your provision for gets burned up.
Exactly.
Okay, nice. So, well, DJ, if you guys have any questions regarding landscaping in general, plants, trees, pottery, anything, you know where to go. You can see DJ and his family over at Busy Bee. And I really appreciate you coming
Absolutely.
in.
Thank you.
And spending the time with us.
And to leave off with one more thing, if you aren't able to make it in or you want to do some research prior to coming in, by all means, check out our Facebook page, our YouTube page. We have got a ton of seminars that we've done from the past that have all been video recorded and put out on YouTube. And we're starting to do a lot more short form videos in the form of reels, couple minutes long, with information that we're going to be getting out there as well. We haven't quite gotten the reels quite finished up, but all of our previous seminars that we've done from the past, I'd say 4 to 6 years, are all uploaded to our YouTube page. Search Busy Bee Lawn and Garden Center on YouTube. You'll find us, and check that out because that's a great resource for getting some ideas going
And
forward.
you probably have all the links on your website too.
Oh yeah, definitely,
So
definitely.
we'll have all their information all in the show notes, so that'd be easy for you to find as well. So
All right.
awesome, man! I really appreciate you coming out. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
And thank you guys for joining for this month's podcast. And I'm really looking forward to seeing you all on the next one. Thank you so much. Bye.